Ayo, Femi called out as he entered the hospital. He found her sitting in the waiting room, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Femi, she whispered, looking up at her brother. They are gone. They are all gone. Femi knelt beside her, pulling her into his arms. I'm here, Ayo, I'm here. Ayomide was an 18-year-old girl with a radiant smile and a heart full of dreams. She lived with her parents and two siblings in a beautiful home in Aja, Lagos. Her elder brother, Femi, was her role model, and her younger sister, Nifemi, was her best friend. Ayomide's father, Mr. Marcus, was a successful businessman, and their family never lacked anything. Ayomide had recently been accepted to a prestigious university abroad, and she was excited about the future. One warm evening, the family gathered in the dining room for dinner. The table was set with their favorite dishes, and the atmosphere was filled with laughter and conversation. Mr. Marcus, a jovial man with a booming voice, was recounting one of his many business adventures. Can you believe it, Ayomide? The client almost signed the wrong contract. Mr. Marcus laughed heartily, his eyes twinkling with joy. Ayomide giggled, her eyes sparkling. Dad, you always have the best stories. Nifemi, only 10 years old, looked up at her father with wild eyes. Tell us more, Daddy. Mrs. Marcus, a kind and gentle woman, smiled warmly at her family. Now, let your father eat his dinner. There will be plenty of time for stories. Suddenly, the peaceful evening was shattered by the sound of the front door being kicked open. 4 armed men burst into the dining room, their faces masked and their voices menacing. Nobody moved. One of them shouted, waving his gun around. The family's laughter turned to screams. Mr. Marcus stood up, trying to shield his family. Please, don't hurt us. Take whatever you want. We want money. Another armed man backed. Where is the money? We don't have money in this house, Mrs. Marcus pleaded, her voice trembling. Please believe us. Without warning, one of the men shot Mrs. Marcus in the chest. She collapsed to the floor, her eyes wide with shock. Ayomide screamed, her heart breaking at the sight of her mother lying lifeless on the ground. Mommy, Nifemi cried, tears streaming down her face. Ayomide, thinking quickly, grabbed Nifemi and tried to hide, but Nifemi was too scared to move. Gunmen turned his attention to Nifemi and shot her too. Ayomide, in sheer terror, hid under the curtain, trying to stifle her sobs as the nightmare unfolded before her eyes. The gunmen turned their guns on Mr. Marcus. Where is the money? They demanded. There is money upstairs, Mr. Marcus said, his voice shaking. Please don't hurt my children. The men forced Mr. Marcus upstairs to retrieve the money. Ayomide could hear their heavy footsteps and her father's muffled voice as he tried to reason with them. She held her breath, praying for a miracle. Minutes later, the gunmen returned, shoving Mr. Marcus down the stairs. He stumbled and fell, clutching a bag of money. The men snatched the bag from him and pointed their guns at him. Please, Mr. Marcus begged, we have given you everything, let us go. The leader of the gunmen sneered. No witnesses. He pulled the trigger and Mr. Marcus fell to the ground, lifeless. Ayomide's heart stopped. She wanted to scream, to fight, but she knew it would only endanger herself. The gunmen left as quickly as they had arrived, leaving a trail of death and despair in their wake. Ayomide crawled out from under the curtain, her body shaking with fear and grief. She saw her mother, her father, and her little sister lying motionless on the floor. Wake up, she whispered, her voice breaking. Please wake up. Her neighbors, hearing the gunshots, rushed into the house. They saw the carnage and immediately called for help. One of the neighbors, Mrs. Ade, knelt beside Ayomide. Ayomide, we need to get you out of here, Mrs. Ade said gently, trying to pull her away from the horrific scene. No, Ayomide screamed, clutching her mother's lifeless hand. I can't leave them. They need me. The paramedics arrived and quickly assessed the situation. They moved Ayomide away from her family's bodies and tried to comfort her. But Ayomide was inconsolable. She felt as if her heart had been ripped from her chest. Hours later, at the hospital, Ayomide was told the devastating news. I'm sorry, Ayomide. The doctor said softly, your family didn't make it. Ayomide's world crumbled around her. She fell to the ground, her body wrecked with sobs. No, 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 she repeated, unable to comprehend the reality of her loss. The hospital staff contacted Femi, who was away on his National Youth Service. When he received the call, he rushed home immediately, his heart heavy with fear and sorrow. Ayo, Femi called out as he entered the hospital. He found her sitting in the waiting room, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Femi, she whispered, looking up at her brother. They are gone. They are all gone. Femi knelt beside her, pulling her into his arms. I'm here, Ayo, I'm here. Ayomide clung to her brother, her only remaining family. The weight of her grief was almost too much to bear, but she knew she had to stay strong. For Femi, for the memory of her parents and sister. The next few days were a blur of funerals, condolences, and overwhelming sorrow. Ayomide couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. She felt numb, as if she were living in a nightmare from which she couldn't wake up. But Femi was there for her, holding her hand, whispering words of comfort. We will get through this, Ayo, he promised. We'll get through this together. Despite his words, Ayomide couldn't shake the feeling that her life would never be the same again. After months of mourning their tragic loss, Femi decided that a change of environment might help them heal. He suggested to Ayomide that they relocate to Abuja, hoping that a new city would help them forget the haunting memories of Aja. Ayo, I think we should move to Abuja, Femi said gently one evening, sitting beside Ayomide in their living room. We need a fresh start, somewhere we can try to rebuild our lives. Ayomide, staring blankly at the wall, barely reacted. Since the incident, she had become a shadow of her former self. She was no longer the vibrant, cheerful girl who filled their home with laughter. Instead, she was withdrawn, silent, and perpetually tired. I don't know, Femi, she whispered. I don't think I can ever forget what happened. Femi took her hand, his eyes filled with determination. We don't have to forget, Ayo. We just need to learn to live again. Abuja might help us do that. After much persuasion, Ayomide reluctantly agreed. They packed their belongings and left their house in Aja, heading to the bustling capital city of Abuja. Femi hoped that the change of scenery would bring some semblance of peace to their troubled lives. Upon arriving in Abuja, Femi made sure Ayomide was settled in comfortably. He rented a cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood, far from the noise and chaos of the city center. Despite the new surroundings, Ayomide's condition didn't improve. She struggled with sleepless nights and could only rest with the help of sleeping pills prescribed by her doctor. One morning, Femi found Ayomide sitting by the window, staring out at the cityscape. She looked pale and frail, a stark contrast to the vibrant young woman she once was. Ayo, it's time for your appointment, Femi said softly, hoping not to startle her. Ayomide turned to him, her eyes dull and lifeless. I don't want to go, Femi. What's the point? Pills are the only thing that help. We need to keep trying, Femi insisted. There is a new hospital here. Maybe the doctors can find a better solution. Reluctantly, Ayomide agreed. and Femi drove her to the hospital. The waiting room was filled with people, but Femi managed to get an appointment with one of the best psychiatrists in the city. Miss Ayomide, it's important that we try to address the root cause of your insomnia, Dr. Johnson said, reviewing her medical history. These pills are only a temporary solution. I just want to sleep without the nightmares, Ayomide murmured, her voice barely audible. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. I see what happened. Dr. Johnson nodded sympathetically. We will work on that, Ayomide. It will take time, but with therapy and the right medication, we can help you. Femi thanked the doctor and led Ayomide back to the car. As they drove home, he couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. He wished he could do more for his sister to take away her pain and suffering. At home, Femi continued to care for Ayomide, making sure she had everything she needed. He took over their father's company in Abuja, dedicating his time to both the business and his sister's well-being. He worked tirelessly, balancing the demands of the company and Ayomide's constant need for support. One evening, Femi found Ayomide sitting alone in her room, looking through an old photo album. The pictures were of happier times, family vacations, birthdays, and celebrations. Tears welled up in her eyes as she traced her fingers over the images. I miss them so much, Femi, she said, her voice breaking. I don't know how to live without them. Femi sat beside her, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. I miss them too, Ayo, every single day. But we have to keep living, for them and for ourselves. Ayomide leaned her head on his shoulder, finding comfort in his presence. I don't know if I can, Femi. It's too hard. We will do it together, Femi assured her. I will be here every step of the way, I promise. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Despite Femi's unwavering support, Ayomide's condition showed little improvement. She rarely left the house, preferring the safety of her room. She avoided social interactions and refused to make new friends, fearing the pain of loss all over again. Femi, determined to find a solution, researched tirelessly, seeking out the best doctors and therapists in Abuja. He even consulted traditional healers, hoping that anyone, could help his sister find peace. One day, Femi came home with a glimmer of hope. Ayo, I found a specialist who deals with trauma-induced insomnia. She's highly recommended. Would you be willing to see her? Ayomide looked at him, her eyes weary. I don't know, Femi. I'm so tired of trying and failing. Just one more try, Femi urged. For me, please. After a long pause, Ayomide nodded slowly. Okay, Femi, one more try. Femi smiled, relieved. Thank you, Ayo. We'll get through this, I promise. As they prepared for yet another doctor's visit, Femi couldn't help but pray that this time, things would be different. He had promised to protect Ayomide at all costs, and he was determined to keep that promise no matter what it took. After their visit to the new hospital proved fruitless, Ayomide resigned herself to the reality that she might never sleep without the aid of pills. Accepting this, she decided to live her life as best she could. She took her sleeping pills each night, allowing herself the only reprieve she could find from the memories that haunted her. Months passed, and Ayomide began to adapt. She resumed cooking and doing household chores, slowly regaining a semblance of her former life. Femi was overjoyed to see these small but significant changes in his sister. You are doing great, Ayo, Femi said one evening as he watched her prepare dinner. I'm so proud of you. Ayomide smiled faintly, stirring a pot of stew. I'm trying, Femi. It's not easy, but I'm trying. I know you are, Femi replied, giving her a reassuring hug. And you are doing an amazing job. Ayomide's efforts paid off. She started to smile more often, and she even began watching TV, something she hadn't done since the tragedy. Femi took every opportunity to encourage her progress, always reminding her of how far she had come. One day, Femi came back home from work with a surprise. Ayo, I want you to meet someone, he said, ushering in a tall, friendly-looking man. This is my best friend from work, Daniel. Ayomide wiped her hands on a towel and offered a polite smile. Hello, Daniel. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too, Ayomide. Daniel replied warmly. Femi has told me a lot about you. Ayomide glanced at Femi, who nodded. I hope it's all good things, she said, trying to inject a bit of humor into her tone. Only the best, Daniel assured her. I was hoping I could get to know you better. Despite her initial hesitation, Ayomide agreed to let Daniel join them for dinner. She prepared a delicious meal, putting extra effort into making it special. As they sat around the table, the atmosphere was surprisingly light and filled with laughter. The stew is fantastic, Ayomide, Daniel complimented, taking another bite. You have a real talent for cooking. Thank you, Ayomide replied, blushing slightly. I enjoy cooking. It's one of the few things that helps me relax. I'm glad to hear that, Daniel said. It's important to have something that brings you peace. As the evening progressed, Ayomide found herself enjoying the company. Daniel's presence was calming, and he had a way of making her feel comfortable. They chatted about various topics, and Ayomide even laughed a few times. Femi watched his sister with a smile, happy to see her engaging with someone new. Daniel, thank you for coming over. It means a lot to both of us. It's my pleasure, Daniel replied. I hope I can visit again. Of course, Ayomide said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. You are always welcome here. From that day on, Daniel became a frequent visitor. Even when Femi wasn't home, Daniel would stop by to see Ayomide, bringing her small gifts or just sitting with her to talk. Their friendship grew, and Ayomide began to look forward to his visits. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch, Daniel turned to Ayomide with a serious expression. Ayo, I know it's not easy for you, but I want you to know that I am here for you. Whenever you need someone to talk to or just someone to sit with, I'm here. Ayomide looked at him, her eyes softening. Thank you, Daniel. You have already done so much for me, more than you know. I just want to see you happy, Daniel said gently. You deserve that. Ayomide felt a warmth in her heart, something she hadn't felt in a long time. I'm trying to move forward, she admitted. It's hard, but having you and Femi makes it a little easier. Daniel reached out and took her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. We'll get through this together, Ayo, one step at a time. Over the following weeks, Ayomide continued to make progress. She ventured out of the house more often, sometimes accompanied by Daniel or Femi. She started to reconnect with the world, slowly rebuilding her life piece by piece. One evening, as she and Daniel walked through a nearby park, Ayomide paused to watch a group of children playing. It's strange, she said softly. Seeing them so happy makes me remember what it was like before. Everything. It's okay to remember, Daniel said, standing beside her. Those memories are a part of you, but you also have the chance to create new happy memories. Ayomide nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. You are right. I want to try, for my parents, for Femi, and for myself. And you will have me and Femi by your side, Daniel reminded her every step of the way. As they continued their walk, Ayomide felt a sense of peace. She knew there would still be difficult days ahead, but she also knew she wasn't alone. With Femi and Daniel's support, she believed she could find a way to live again, to truly heal from the pain of the past. And so, Ayomide took each day as it came, cherishing the moments of happiness and walking through the moments of sorrow. Slowly but surely, she began to rebuild her life, one step at a time. Weeks passed, and Daniel found himself spending more and more time with Ayomide and Femi. The bond he had formed with Ayomide grew stronger, and with it, his feelings for her. He admired her resilience, her courage to keep moving forward despite everything she had been through. But he was afraid to tell her how he felt, fearing that it might jeopardize their friendship and make her uncomfortable. One evening, after dinner at Femi and Ayomide's home, Daniel lingered in the kitchen, helping Ayomide with the dishes. Femi had gone to his room to finish some work, leaving the two of them alone. Thank you for helping, Ayomide said, handing Daniel a dish to dry. It's the least I can do, Daniel replied, trying to keep his tone casual. You always cook such wonderful meals. It's only fair I help with the cleanup. Ayomide smiled, her eyes lighting up. I'm glad you enjoyed the food. Cooking has become a part of therapy for me. You are really good at it, Daniel said, meaning every word. You have a talent. Thank you, Daniel. Ayomide said softly, you have been so kind to me. I don't know what I would do without you and Femi. We are happy to be here for you, Ayo, Daniel said, his heart pounding in his chest. He wanted to say more, to tell her how much she meant to him, but the words caught in his throat. As the days turned into weeks, Ayomide started to attend JAMB lessons to prepare for her return to school. It was a significant step forward, and both Femi and Daniel were thrilled to see her excited about the future again. I can't believe I'm going back to school, Ayomide said one morning as Femi drove her to her tutorial class. It's been so long. You have worked hard to get here, Ayo, Femi said, glancing at her with pride. You are going to do great. When Daniel wasn't working, he often accompanied Femi to pick Ayomide up from her lessons. The three of them would chat about their day, making plans and sharing stories. It became a routine that brought a sense of normalcy and joy back into Ayomide's life. One afternoon, as they waited outside the tutorial center, Daniel turned to Femi, trying to gauge his thoughts. She looks happier, doesn't she? Daniel said, watching Ayomide walk out of the building with a group of new friends, her face lit up with a genuine smile. Femi nodded, his expression thoughtful. Yeah, she does. It's good to see her like this. She's been through so much. Ayomide approached the car, waving goodbye to her friends. Hey, you two, ready to go? Always, Femi replied with a grin. How was class today? It was great, Ayomide said as she climbed into the car. I'm really starting to get the hang of it again. I even made a couple of new friends. That's wonderful, Ayo, Daniel said, his heart swelling with pride. You are doing an amazing job. As they drove home, the conversation flowed easily. Ayomide shared stories about her classes and her new friends, and Femi and Daniel listened attentively, offering encouragement and support. It was moments like this that Daniel cherished, even as he struggled with his growing feelings for Ayomide. One evening, after dropping Ayomide off at home, Femi and Daniel decided to grab a drink at a nearby cafe. As they sipped their coffees, Femi turned to Daniel with a serious expression. It's great to see Ayo doing so well, Femi said, a note of relief in his face. She has come such a long way. She really has, Daniel agreed, taking a sip of his coffee. She is an incredible person. Femi nodded, his eyes reflecting his deep care for his sister. I don't know what we would have done without your support, Daniel. You have been like family to us. It's been my pleasure, Femi, Daniel said. You both mean a lot to me. Daniel kept his feelings for Ayomide to himself, unsure how she would react if she knew. Instead, he focused on being the best friend he could be, offering support and encouragement as she continued her journey towards healing. One afternoon, as Ayomide and Daniel sat in the living room watching TV, Ayomide turned to him with a thoughtful expression. Daniel, do you ever think about the future? All the time, Daniel replied, curious about where she was going with this. Why do you ask? I have been thinking about it a lot, Ayomide said, her gaze distant, about what I want to do, where I want to go. It's scary, but it's also exciting. Daniel smiled, feeling a surge of affection for her. You have so much potential, Ayo. Whatever you decide to do, I know you will succeed. Thank you, Ayomide said, her eyes meeting his. Your belief in me means a lot. As the weeks went by, Ayomide's confidence grew. She was more engaged in her studies and started to talk about her dreams for the future. Femi and Daniel continued to support her, proud of the progress she was making. One evening, as they were having dinner together, Femi raised his glass to Ayo for her strength and determination. You are an inspiration to us all. Ayomide blushed, touched by her brother's words. Thank you, Femi, and thank you, Daniel. I couldn't have done this without you both. Daniel raised his glass, his heart full to new beginnings and brighter days ahead. Ayomide smiled, feeling a sense of hope and gratitude. With Femi and Daniel by her side, she knew she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. And though Daniel's feelings for her remained unspoken, the bond they shared continued to grow, strengthening their friendship and giving Ayomide the support she needed to keep moving. Days later, Femi had to travel for a business trip, leaving Ayomide under Daniel's watch. Ayomide was feeling anxious because her JAMB exam was scheduled for the next day. Ayo, I'm going to be away for a few days, Femi said, standing by the door with his suitcase. Daniel will stay over tonight and keep an eye on you. You know you can count on him. I know, Femi, Ayomide replied, managing a small smile. Good luck with your trip. Thanks and good luck with your exam tomorrow, Femi said, giving her a hug. You will do great. That evening, Daniel arrived as planned. They had dinner together and Ayomide felt a comforting sense of normalcy with Daniel's presence. Are you nervous about tomorrow? Daniel asked as they washed up after dinner. A little, Ayomide admitted, but I have been studying hard. I think I'm ready. You will do just fine, Daniel said encouragingly. Get a good night's sleep and I will make sure you are up on time. That night, Ayomide took her sleeping pills and went to bed early. She felt secure knowing Daniel was there, and she fell into a deep sleep. However, when she woke up the next morning, she felt unusually tired and weak. She grudgingly looked around her room, disoriented. Daniel, she called out, but there was no response. Confused, Ayomide got out of bed and checked the living room and kitchen. There was no sign of Daniel. Panic started to set in, and she realized she was running late for her exam. She hurriedly prepared herself and rushed out to get a cab to take her to the exam center. During the cab ride, Ayomide's mind raced. She couldn't understand why Daniel would leave without saying anything. She tried calling him several times, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Arriving at the exam center just in time, Ayomide forced herself to focus. She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts, and walked into the examination hall. Despite the morning's chaos, she managed to concentrate and complete her exam. After the exam, Ayomide tried calling Daniel again, but there was still no answer. Feeling a mix of worry and frustration, she boarded a cab and went home. The apartment was empty and silent, a stark contrast to the turmoil in her mind. When Femi returned home a few days later, Ayomide was waiting for him at the door, her face etched with concern. Ayo, what's wrong? Femi asked, dropping his suitcase and rushing to her side. It's Daniel, Ayomide said, her voice trembling. He stayed over the night before my exam, but when I woke up, he was gone. I haven't heard from him since. I have tried calling, but he won't pick up. Femi frowned, pulling out his phone. I will call him and find out what's going on. He dialed Daniel's number, and after a few rings, Daniel picked up. Hey Daniel, it's Femi. What's going on? Ayomide said you disappeared and haven't been answering our calls. There was a pause on the other end of the line before Daniel spoke. I'm sorry, Femi. I had an emergency and had to rush back to the village. I should have called, but everything happened so fast. Femi relayed the information to Ayomide, who looked both relieved and confused. He says he had an emergency in the village. That's why he left. Ayomide nodded slowly, trying to make sense of it. I guess that explains it. But why didn't he call or text me? I was so worried. I don't know, Femi said, still holding the phone. Daniel, you should have let Ayo know. She was really worried. I know and I'm sorry, Daniel replied. Please tell her I will explain everything when I get back. It was just a chaotic situation. Femi ended the call and turned to Ayomide. He says he will explain everything when he gets back. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. Ayomide sighed, feeling a mix of emotions. I hope so. It was just so strange. One minute he was there, and the next he was gone. Try not to worry too much, Femi said, giving her a reassuring hug. I'm sure he will be back soon and everything will be fine. Days turned in 2 weeks and there was still no word from Daniel. Ayomide tried to focus on her studies and her daily routines, but the nagging worry about Daniel's sudden disappearance lingered in the back of her mind. One evening, as Ayomide and Femi were having dinner, he couldn't hold back her thoughts any longer. Femi, what if something bad happened to Daniel? What if he needs our help? I'm sure he's fine, Ayo, Femi said, though his voice lacked confidence. But if it will make you feel better, I will try calling him again tomorrow. The next day, Femi made several attempts to reach Daniel, but there was no answer. Ayomide's concern grew with each passing day. She found herself replaying the events of that morning over and over in her mind, searching for any clues she might have missed. As the weeks passed, Ayomide began to accept that Daniel might not come back. She tried to push the worry aside and focus on her own life, drawing strength from Femi's constant support. But every now and then, she would find herself glancing at her phone, hoping to see a message or a missed call from Daniel. She missed his presence, his encouragement, and the friendship they had built. Despite the unanswered questions, Ayomide knew she had to keep moving forward. She had come too far to let this setback derail her progress. With Femi by her side, she resolved to face whatever challenges lay ahead and to hold on to the hope that one day she would have answers. After some time, Ayomide began feeling unwell. She often felt nauseous and started throwing up frequently. Femi, worried about his sister's health, rushed her to the hospital. They waited anxiously in the brightly lit waiting room, Femi holding Ayomide's hand tightly. Ayo, you'll be fine, Femi reassured her. We will figure out what's wrong. When the doctor finally returned, he held a solemn expression. Miss Ayomide, the test shows that you are pregnant. Femi's eyes widened in shock. Pregnant? How is that possible? Ayomide's face turned pale. No, that can't be right. I'm a virgin. The doctor raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. The tests are quite conclusive. Perhaps you should think back over the past few months. No, you don't understand, Ayomide insisted, her voice trembling. I have never. I can't be pregnant. Femi, still in disbelief, drove Ayomide home in silence. As soon as they entered the house, his confusion turned to anger. Who got you pregnant, Ayomide? Femi demanded, his voice echoing through the house. Tell me the truth. No one, Femi, Ayomide cried, tears streaming down her face. I swear, no one. I'm still a virgin. The doctor must have made a mistake. Don't lie to me, Ayomide, Femi shouted, his face contorted with rage. I lived for a few days, and this is what happens. You have been living a wayward life behind my back. No, Femi, please believe me, Ayomide pleaded. I haven't done anything. I don't know how this happened. Femi stormed out of the house, leaving Ayomide sobbing on the floor. She cried throughout the night, feeling a deep sense of betrayal and confusion. The next day, Femi, still fuming, decided to call Daniel. To his surprise, Daniel answered. Daniel, we need to talk. Can you meet me at the cafe? Femi asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Sure, Femi, I'll be there in an hour. Daniel replied, sounding concerned. At the cafe, Femi couldn't hold back his frustration. My sister is pregnant, Daniel. Can you believe that? And she claims she's a virgin. Daniel's eyes widened in shock. Pregnant? Ayo? Yes, Ayo. She's been lying to me, pretending to be this innocent girl while sneaking around. Femi spat out, anger evident in his voice. I need you to talk to her. She listens to you. Daniel, looking troubled, nodded slowly. I will come by after work. But Femi, take it easy on her. There might be more to this than we understand. Back at home, Ayomide tried once again to reason with Femi. Please, Femi, you have to believe me. I haven't done anything wrong. But Femi, His mind, clouded with anger and disappointment, refused to listen. Stop lying, Ayo. Just stop. As days turned into weeks, Ayomide's pregnancy began to show. Femi's frustration grew with each passing day. One evening, his anger reached a boiling point. "You need to leave, Ayomide," Femi said coldly. "Go find the father of your child and live with him. You can't stay here anymore." "Femi, please," Ayomide begged, clutching her small bag. "I have nowhere to go. Please don't do this." But Femi's heart had hardened. "You have brought shame to this family. Leave." With tears streaming down her face, Ayomide stepped out into the cold night. She clutched her bag tightly, her heart breaking with each step she took away from the only home she had left. As she walked through the deserted streets, her mind raced with fear and confusion. She had no idea where to go or what to do. All she knew was that she was alone and abandoned by the people she loved most. Daniel, who had promised to come after work, never showed up. Ayomide's hopes of finding comfort and support from him were shattered. She felt utterly betrayed and lost. With nowhere else to turn, Ayomide wandered the streets aimlessly. She found herself at a small park, where she sat on a bench, hugging herself against the cold. Her tears flowed freely as she thought about the baby growing inside her and the uncertain future that lay ahead. As the night grew colder, Ayomide shivered, feeling the chill seep into her bones. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to stay warm, but the cold was relentless. Her mind replayed the events of the past few weeks, searching for answers that eluded her. She thought about her parents, her sister, and the life they once had. The memories brought a fresh wave of tears. She felt an overwhelming sense of loss and longing for the warmth and security of her family. Morning came, and with it, a faint glimmer of hope. Ayomide knew she had to keep moving, to find a way to survive for the sake of her unborn child. She got up from the bench, her body stiff and cold, and began to walk again. As she wandered through the city, she found herself outside a church. The doors were open, and she could hear the faint sound of hymns being sung. Drawn by the warmth and the promise of solace, Ayomide walked inside. The church was nearly empty, save for a few people scattered in the pews. She found a seat at the back and sat down, her hands resting on her growing belly. The hymns filled the air, soothing her troubled mind. For the first time in weeks, Ayomide felt a sense of peace. She closed her eyes and let the music wash over her, praying silently for strength and guidance. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she was determined to keep moving forward, no matter how hard it got. She left the church. Ayomide felt a renewed sense of determination. She would find a way to survive, for herself and for her baby. She would not let the darkness of her past define her future. With each step she took, Ayomide moved closer to a new beginning, holding on to the hope that one day she would find the answer she so desperately sought and the peace she so deeply needed. Ayomide wandered through the city, her mind consumed with worry for her unborn child. As she walked, she noticed a house with a sign that read, "House Help Wanted." Desperate for shelter and work, she decided to inquire. She knocked on the door, her heart pounding with anxiety. A middle-aged woman answered, looking at Ayomide with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Yes, can I help you?" the woman asked. "Please, ma'am," Ayomide began, her voice trembling. "I saw the sign. I need a job and place to stay. I will work hard, I promise." The woman studied Ayomide for a moment, then sighed. "Come in, let's talk." Inside, Ayomide explained her situation. The woman, Mrs. Adeleke, was sympathetic. "We need someone to keep the house clean while we are abroad. You will live here with the other staff." "Thank you, ma'am," Ayomide said, tears of relief filling her eyes. "I will let you down." Mrs. Adeleke introduced Ayomide to Lulu, another cleaner who lived in the house. Lulu, a warm and friendly woman, welcomed Ayomide with open arms. "Hi, I'm Lulu," she said, giving Ayomide a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, we'll take good care of you here." "Thank you, Lulu," Ayomide replied, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. As the days passed, Ayomide settled into her new life. She worked diligently, cleaning the house and making sure everything was in order. She shared a room with Lulu, who quickly became her confidant and friend. One evening, as they sat in their room, Lulu asked, Ayo, what happened? How did you end up here? Ayomide hesitated, then shared her story. She told Lulu about the tragedy that took her family, her struggle with insomnia, and the mysterious pregnancy that led to her being cast out by her brother. I'm so sorry, Ayo, Lulu said, taking her hand. You have been through so much, but you are strong. You will get through this. Thank you, Lulu, Ayomide said, grateful for her friend's support. I don't know what I would do without you. One day, Ayomide felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. She knew it was time. Lulu, I think I'm going into labor, she gasped. Lulu sprang into action, helping Ayomide to the car and rushing her to the hospital. Hang in there, Ayo, we are almost there. At the hospital, Ayomide was taken into the delivery room. Lulu waited anxiously, praying for her friend. After a few hours, a nurse came out with a tiny crying baby boy. Congratulations, it's a boy, the nurse said, handing the baby to Lulu. Lulu's joy was short-lived as she noticed the frantic activity in the delivery room. Something was wrong. Moments later, a doctor emerged, his expression grave. Are you a relative of Ayomide? He asked. Lulu shook her head. No, but I'm her friend. What happened? The doctor sighed. Ayomide had complications and started bleeding heavily. We did everything we could, but I'm sorry she didn't make it. Lulu's heart shattered. She clutched the baby to her chest, tears streaming down her face. No, Ayo! She made a series of calls, her hands trembling. When she reached Femi, his voice was filled with confusion and worry. Yes, what is it? What's wrong? This is Lulu, Ayo's friend. Femi, I'm sorry. Ayo, she's gone. She had complications during childbirth. Femi's world collapsed. No, that can't be true. No. He rushed to the hospital, his mind racing with guilt and sorrow. When he arrived, he found Lulu holding the newborn baby, her eyes red from crying. Femi, I'm so sorry, Lulu said, handing the baby to him. She wanted you to know she loved you. Femi took the baby, his heart breaking. He looked at Ayomide's lifeless body, tears streaming down his face. Ayo, I'm so sorry. I failed you. Please forgive me. But it was too late. Ayomide couldn't hear him anymore. Femi held the baby close, vowing to protect him and honor Ayomide's memory. He arranged for Ayomide's body to be taken home and gave her a proper burial. At the funeral, Femi stood by her grave, his heart heavy with regret. I promise I will take care of your son, Ayo. I promise. Back at home, Femi dedicated himself to raising Ayomide's baby. He named the boy Ayodele, meaning joy has come home, hoping to bring a sense of hope and light into their lives. As he cared for Ayodele, Femi couldn't shake the guilt of not believing his sister and sending her away. Each night, as he rocked Ayodele to sleep, Femi spoke softly to his sister's spirit. I'm so sorry, Ayo. I should have trusted you. I should have been there for you. I will make it up to you by being the best father I can to Ayodele. Lulu continued to visit, helping Femi with the baby and offering her support. She had grown fond of Ayodele and felt a sense of responsibility towards him. One afternoon, as they sat in the living room, Lulu turned to Femi. You know, Ayo was one of the strongest people I have ever met. She will be proud of you, Femi. Femi nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, Lulu. Thank you for everything. One serene morning, as Femi fed little Ayodele his breakfast, the tranquility of their home was shattered. The front door burst open and Daniel stumbled in. His face twisted in anguish. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Femi, I need to talk to you, Daniel cried, his voice cracking. Please listen to me. Femi looked up, startled and confused. Daniel, what's going on? What happened? Daniel's hand trembled as he clasped them together, looking up at Femi with desperation. I have to confess something. I was the one who took advantage of Ayomide that night you traveled. I loved her, but I couldn't tell her. The devil pushed me to do it. She took her pills and fell asleep without knowing what was happening. I was a coward, so I disappeared before she woke up. I couldn't face her anymore, and that was why I stayed away. But her spirit haunts me every day. Femi's face turned pale with shock. He tightened his grip on Ayodele, his hand reeling with disbelief. What are you saying, Daniel? You did this to Ayomide? I did, Daniel sobbed, his voice filled with regret. I couldn't bear the guilt. I loved her so much, but I did something unforgivable. I am sorry. Femi's heart pounded with a mix of rage and sorrow. He could hardly believe the man they had trusted like family could commit such a heinous act. Daniel, how could you? We trusted you. Ayomide trusted you. I know, Daniel whispered, his head bowed in shame. I am a monster. I deserve whatever punishment you decide. Femi stood, still holding Ayodele, his face hardening with resolve. You are right, Daniel. You deserve to pay for what you did to my sister. I'm calling the police. Daniel didn't resist as Femi dialed the number. The police arrived promptly and Daniel was arrested for rape. As they led him away, Daniel turned to Femi one last time. Femi, please, tell Ayomide's spirit that I'm sorry. I will live with this guilt for the rest of my life. Femi watched as the police car drove away, taking Daniel to face his punishment. He felt a heavy weight lift from his shoulders, knowing that justice was finally being served. Days later, Femi took Ayodele to Ayomide's grave. The cemetery was quiet, the air filled with the soft rustling of leaves. Femi knelt by his sister's headstone, his heart aching with sorrow and regret. Ayo, I'm so sorry, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. I should have believed you. I failed you in so many ways. Please forgive me. He gently placed Ayodele down and watched as the baby reached out to touch the headstone, his tiny fingers brushing against the cold marble. Femi's tears flowed freely as he promised his sister that he would raise her son with all the love and care she had deserved. I will never make another mistake like that again, Femi vowed. I will protect Ayodele and make sure he knows how much he loved him, I promise. Femi stayed at the grave for hours, speaking to Ayomide as if she were right beside him. He shared his hopes and dreams for Ayodele, vowing to honor her memory in every way possible. As time passed, Femi's guilt began to ease, replaced by a newfound sense of purpose. He threw himself into raising Ayodele, ensuring that his nephew grew up surrounded by love and support. The little boy's laughter became a source of healing for Femi, a reminder that life could still hold joy despite the pain of the past. News of Daniel's death in prison reached Femi months later. The circumstances were unclear, but it was said that Daniel had succumbed to his own torment and guilt. Femi felt a strange mix of emotions, sorrow for the friend he had once known, and a grim sense of closure. One sunny afternoon, Femi took Ayodele to the park. As they played together, he thought about the journey they had been through, the hardships, the lessons learned, and the bond strengthened by adversity. He knew that Ayomide's spirit would always be with them, guiding and protecting them. Ayodele, Femi said, lifting the boy onto his shoulders. Your mother was the strongest person I ever knew. She loved you so much, and she fought hard to bring you into this world. You are her legacy, and I'm going to make sure you grow up knowing how incredible she was. Ayodele giggled, his small hands gripping Femi's hair. Mama? Yes, your mama, Femi said, smiling through his tears. She's watching over us, Ayodele, and she's proud of you. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the park, Femi felt a sense of peace. He had learned valuable lessons from the tragedy that had befallen his family. He understood the importance of trust, love, and the strength to move forward. In the end, Femi knew that Ayomide's memory would live on through Ayodele. He was determined to honor her by raising her son with all the love and devotion she deserved. And so, despite the sorrow and loss, Femi and Ayodele faced the future together, united by the enduring spirit of Ayomide's love. Trust and believe in your loved ones, even in the face of doubt. True support and understanding can prevent deeper regret and foster healing. Always act with compassion and integrity, as betrayal and dishonesty can lead to inseparable harm and suffering. Thank you for watching this amazing story about Ayomide on African Stories. If you liked it and felt inspired with our journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.